All right. Welcome back to mini lesson number 2 for Unit 2, Western Europe. Today we are going to be taking a look at ancient Greece. Ancient Greece is a very, very interesting place. A lot of our ideas, our government, the United States government, was formed a little bit based off of Athens and ancient Greece. So we're going to be taking a look at that. Ancient Greece, very, very interesting place. So get excited. So today's objectives, as always, you should be able to explain ancient Greek political systems, including the city-state and direct democracy. All right, we will be learning all about that. Locate ancient Greece on a map. All right, I will have a map up there that you should be able to point to where ancient Greece was by the end of this lesson. Describe important events and individual contributions in ancient Greece. We're going to be taking a look at a couple different people. And the last thing is analyze primary sources to learn about the past. Not so much in this mini lesson, but as you go through your lesson, you'll be looking at some primary sources. So that is what you should be learning about today. All right. So here is the map of ancient Greece, okay? The areas that are highlighted in the orange is ancient Greece. All right, so we have ancient Greece is right in here. All of this orange was ancient Greece. So we have Athens over here, Sparta. A lot of you have heard of Sparta. I think the movie 300, like this is Sparta, like that guy. So Sparta's right here. Athens is another big one. These are all different city-states throughout ancient Greece. All right. So, which sea separates Athens from Iona? Oops, sorry. So, which sea separates it? Okay, it's the Aegean Sea, right in here. Right. Greece is really, really. It's a great location because they're right on the water. Greece, these city-states are right on the water, so it's very easy for them to trade with other city-states or countries that were, or civilizations that were along the Aegean Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, so they could come over here and get goods and bring them back to Greece, right? The way Greece's geography led to different isolated settlements, right? So we have like Athens is separated from Sparta. All of these is because of the water, right? So we have a lot of different waterways that separate these city-states from other city-states. So Crete is down here by itself because it's an island. Many of these are peninsulas or islands. So the water really separates the different city-states and isolates them from other city-states, okay? So this is where Greece is, right in here, all right? We have Italy's over here. Italy's over here. Then Western Europe is over here on a map, okay? So just know where Greece is. It's down here by the Aegean Sea. It's just separated, all right? There's a lot of different isolated areas, the Mediterranean Sea, all right? You may see this on your quick check, all right? So just be able to locate where it is on a map, all right? Moving on. City-states. You've heard me talk a lot about city-states in the past couple minutes, all right? City-states, there are going to be many fortified towns that surrounded Greece, okay? So as we look here, right, there are many different towns throughout Greece, and what they're going to do, these towns are going to turn into what we call city-states, okay? City-states are a city or town that controls the surrounding villages and farmland, okay, nearby. So Athens turns into a city-state, and it controls all the farmland, okay, and the area around the villages that are around Athens, okay? So Athens turns into basically this big city that kind of turns into their own civilization, that they create their own government, and the people belong to Athens. Sparta's the same way. Sparta branches out, kind of gets a decent size city. They create their own government, and the people who live within Sparta are Spartans, okay, and they fight for them and they live under that government. The city states are going to be all independent of one another. Sorry, that should say of one another, and would fight often. Okay, Sparta and Athens are going to be rivals. They're going to fight against each other. So it wasn't like, oh, we're all part of Europe, so we kind of work together. No, it was Athens was their own city state. They did their own thing. They had their own government, their own people, and then Sparta was different too, and they had their own people, their own government, and they were their own entity. So they were just separated, and they were rivals. They became rivals, and they're going to butt heads. Okay. This is another map. Okay, this is a little bit more of a close-up map. So we have Athens over here, Sparta. All right, Thebes is over here. All right, Crete's down here. These are all city-states that are part of ancient Greece. Okay, so we have ancient Greece is the whole thing, and then we have city-states within. Okay, um, and this is kind of how it happens. Remember where ancient Greece is located on a map. All right, we have the Aegean Sea, we have the Mediterranean Sea. It's going to be kind of to the right of Italy. Okay, so Italy, remember the boot shape. So we see the boot here. It's to the right of Italy. All right, we have the Peloponnesian War. This is, like I said, Athens and Sparta don't like each other. They have two very different types of government, which we're going to learn about, and they butt heads. Okay, the Peloponnesian War is a very long war between Sparta and Athens. Okay, they're going to be fighting. All right, it goes on for a very long time. All right, I can't even give you the exact number of years, but it goes on. They're constantly fighting against each other for dominance. All right, they don't like one another. Athens is going to have this very strong navy. Their navy is super strong. They're right on the water, so they build up this huge navy, and it's fantastic. Okay, their military is good, but it's not as good as Sparta's. Okay, so Athens advantage navy, military advantage Sparta. Okay, Sparta has a super strong military. Sparta would actually force children to go into school, and what they would learn about is how to fight. They would learn about how to be soldiers. And they were training from a very young age. At the age of 20, males at the age of 20 were forced to be full-time soldiers. Okay, they would have to fight in the Spartan military. That was what they did. All right, there was no way around it. They would fight in the military for Sparta. So Athens, very good navy. Sparta, better military. Okay, the Peloponnesian War, Sparta versus Athens, always button heads. Okay, there were times when Athens would win, and then Sparta would become strong again, and Sparta would come back and defeat Athens, and then Athens would come back and win. Like it was just like a back and forth. Okay, there was never really like a clear winner. They would always just fight against one another for dominance. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen like the movie 300. All right, this is Sparta, things like that. Okay, so that is the Peloponnesian War. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard of it. Okay, so that is that. All right. Different in Sparta, they're going to have their own type of government. Okay, they have what they call an oligarchy, which is a small group of people. All right, usually elites, rich people would rule the country. Okay, they would rule the country. So Sparta has an oligarchy. They have a few elite rich people who would rule the country. All right, so oligarchy, a few people, okay, rule by few, just like this picture shows. Okay, so like the key shows kind of the power. They're the leaders. They're the government. Rule by a few. Okay, it can be from like 3 to 20. Okay, so it's just a few people rule the city state. Okay, so oligarchy was in Sparta. Sparta has an oligarchy, ruled by few. Remember that. Okay. Whereas on the other hand, Athens has a direct democracy. All right. What direct democracy means, I'm sure some of you have heard, all right, the United States has a democracy. Well, the United States gets this from Athens. All right. A direct democracy is a system which allows all citizens to vote directly. So um, at that time, unfortunately, it was only men, okay? And what they would do is they would get a ballot, they would go up, they would write, I want Mr. Doherty to be the leader. They would submit it, and that was their vote. Everyone's vote counted equally, all right? And um, they would directly elect their leaders. They would decide on laws and other issues affecting the city state. So they would vote on all of these different issues. Like I said, Athens would have a direct democracy, all right, and they would allow. It says all people to vote. I'm pretty sure it was just all men could vote, and the democracy in Greece, all right, the direct democracy where people could vote, all right, was extremely innovative. Okay, it came from most of these city states had kings or queens or like oligarchies where there was just like one or a couple rulers, whereas people in ancient Athens, okay, Athens were able to now decide who they wanted to be their ruler, right? Who they wanted to be. So kind of how we vote for president, all right? When you get to be 18, you'll be able to vote for president. And we have a ballot where we vote. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm not sure if it's unfortunately, but the United States doesn't have a direct democracy where if I go and vote, my vote goes directly to that president. We have what we call the electoral college, and the electoral college is our vote. So we don't have a direct democracy. We do have a democracy where we get to vote, but ours is not just a direct democracy where every vote we have counts towards, who becomes president. So it's not like, all right, my vote's one, all right, your parents' vote is one, 1, 2, you know what I mean, 1, 2, 3, and whoever gets like a million votes wins. No, that's not how they do it. They do it the electoral college where each state. But I'm not going to get into that now because it can get confusing. Like I said, the United States is really going to look to the Athenian democracy when they're starting to create the government. The founding fathers really looked at Athens and liked how they created their government. Right? So they would use this as an example. Like I said, Athens and many of the city states, their location was just perfect because they were right on the water. Okay, they could sail to other places, other city states. They could sail to other empires, countries around the world, and trade with them. So their just location was just phenomenal. City states. Um, really just would trade with one another. Okay, there was definitely some rivalries. So like Sparta and Athens probably wouldn't trade with each other, but other city states did get along. Um, the these different city states in Greece though would bring their culture with them. So the Athenians, when they would travel to, let's say they would travel to Asia and they would see other empires there, they would bring their culture with them. So if the Greeks have a lot of, let's say, olives, okay, and they would bring olives with them. Maybe in Asia they didn't have it, so they would bring those, and now the Asian empire they were trading with would now have olives, okay, and vice versa. The Asian empire would give them something that the ancient Athenians didn't have. Also, they would bring with them their ideas. So maybe they brought with them their ideas of democracy and said, hey, here's what we're doing in Athens. It's really great. Our democracy is fantastic where people get to vote. Um, Maybe you should implement it into your society, and they would trade ideas. So this idea of bringing cultural ideas and foods back and forth, like the new traditions, was called the cultural hearth. Okay, the cultural hearth was just bringing new ideas back and forth, different types of food, different products, just trading with one another. Okay, so they would bring back these ideas when they went and traded with other people. Life in ancient Greece. What was life like in ancient Greece? Okay, we call the period after Alexander the Great the classical period. All right, people really started to learn. They would study philosophy. They would learn new ideas. We had the creation of history, which is fantastic. And they're going to look at all different aspects of life. Mathematics, and science will become this huge issue, and people would really start to focus on these issues. And there was huge advancements in math and science. Um, in ancient Greece, all of the city states they had different religious beliefs, but for the most part, they all believed in many gods, okay, or deities, such as I'm sure you've heard of like the god Zeus, Apollo, Poseidon. Okay, these were their religious beliefs in ancient Greece. They believed in many gods. Who they were all different gods of different things. So like Poseidon was the god of the seas. Okay, so they would if they were going for a they were going trading and they would have to cross the Mediterranean Sea, they would pray to the god of Poseidon to help them, things like that. Greeks also would really start to focus on studying philosophy, which means love of wisdom, which basically means that they wanted like love of learning. They really wanted to learn. Greek scholars applied logic, all right, or reason. So they would start to think of like, if why does if I kick this ball, why does it move? Or why? I'm just trying to think. Why does this bag, if I blow air into it, right? Why does this baggie inflate, right? So they would start to try and think of why these things are happening. All right. They also would study knowledge in the world. They would start to look at other city states and what they were doing, other empires. So that was really what philosophy came when philosophy came about. What they were studying. Okay. Like I had mentioned, many people really are going to start to study mathematics and science, and there's going to be huge advancements for the first time ever. Okay, we have some of the greatest, you know, Aristotle and things like that, and people like that. Sorry, who would come up with these just ideas that we even still use today. Okay, and the main center of living was the agora. Okay, this was like the main the heart of the city state. All right, so the agora, this is where people would go. All right, so if you think of it like if you live in a city, it's like the downtown area. Okay, it's where everyone would flock to. There was a bunch of markets, places where you could buy different goods. All right, the religious shrines were there. The agora was the downtown of these city states. Okay, so think of it that way: the agora, the downtown, the heart of the city. All right, of where people would go for the markets and things like that. All right. And the last guy that I want you to know about is Solon. Okay. He was an extremely important figure in Greece because unfortunately in Greece they did believe in slavery and they had a lot of slaves. Okay. They had slaves for different reasons. And one of the reasons was if you couldn't pay back your debt. So you spent too much money or you couldn't pay your taxes, things like that, right? And you owed someone money, they would make you a slave. Okay. So Solon decided this isn't right. If people owe money, this isn't right that we're making them slaves. Okay. So he helped end slavery in Greece for those that were in debt. All right. He's a very important figure because he was able to do this. All right. And made people start to see that slavery in ancient Greece wasn't right. But his main what he mainly did was his biggest accomplishment. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. Was that he was able to end slavery for those that were in debt. That's his biggest achievement. Just remember that for the quick check. All right. All right, that is all I have for you today on ancient Greece. I know it was a lot of information thrown at you. Um, but please make sure you can go through. There is a notebook that you can click on and download and answer those questions on there. I'll also be having the study guide where I'll try and put those on there as well. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. I will put the exit ticket in the comment section for you to click on. I hope that you all enjoyed this mini lesson, and I will see you next time. Mr. Doherty, out.